All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus. I'm Avon and here is Amanda. We're going to be talking about the most fad-driven, wild, crazy, stupid thing in the media, AI. And as much as I now want to get away from the concept of AI, unfortunately, it's banging on the doorstep. It's the most over-talked about thing. I went to a software conference last week. And it was like, oh, what about AI? What about AI? What about AI? And the presenters are like, literally, can we just get through the conversation without talking about AI?
There you go. That's wild. It is literally everywhere. It is unavoidable.
Well, I mean, this is a software company that they're trying to push towards becoming a market leader, and they're sick of the conversation. Like, they're doing it, but like, can we focus on some of the other features? Look, I fixed this field over here. Can I have some kudos for that? Like, it's got to be frustrating.
100%.
So the problem with AI, though, is that it doesn't work unless there's some form of structure for it to read. Like, it doesn't like data silos. It can't stitch together 50 different thought packets. So it can't jump between softwares. It can't feel feelings. It can't interpret everything. But they're working on that, and it's happening at a great rate. So maybe we should probably talk about what happens to the humans when the AI takes over. Are we going to have Skynet? Do you think we're going to have like robots running over the hill shooting us with lasers, trying to wipe out the human race?
It could happen. It could happen. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe it's too smart to do anything right now. It's waiting until we give it full power, and then it's just going to roll us in our sleep. Anyway,
that's it. It's far too early to take action.
Well, yeah. Well, let's do the less morbid side of the conversation and say, what do the humans actually do? So according to McKinsey, 15% of the global workforce, or 400 million workers, might lose their jobs to AI by 2030. So that's 5 years away.
It's not far away at all.
I still don't think that's a large number, though. Like 400 million, whilst that sounds big, that is the global workforce. There is 1.4 billion people in India. There's 1.3 billion in China. There's, I don't know, I think it's like just over 1 billion in Russia. There's 380 million in the US. So 400 million globally is, yeah, not that much. Like, well, it's 15%. So whilst 15% is still decent, I'm pretty sure we could find jobs for those people. Like 31% of jobs would be unaffected, presuming some like doctor type role, and then 61% dramatically changed as a result of AI. So manual labor is more than likely going away. Which ones do you think are going away? What's the worst?
The one that immediately springs to mind is car manufacturing. So surely there is a way that they can automate that whole process. Surely. And I'm sure they're well on their way there.
Well, I think Elon Musk has got the most automated factory at the moment. And I do know that, I think, unfortunately, a different type of manufacturing might become more popular. I'm pretty sure there is a fully automated guided missile factory in China doing 1,000 missiles a day. So it's not always, rainbows, skittles, and productivity. Sometimes it's also a threatening angle.
Absolutely.
So what are some other jobs? Coles recently launched a packing facility which can pack 1,000 grocery orders a day.
Wow, that's insane.
And I think it's got about 20 staff.
Interesting. And it's interesting because I'm traveling at the moment. I'm currently in Italy. One thing I noticed that's different to home, there's a lot more automatic mowers and automatic mopping machines. So I know that's not quite AI, but they've automated that. There's not someone walking around KFC mopping. There's a little machine going around doing it. And same with the gardens and the local council nature strips and stuff. There's an automatic mower or a team of 3 of them and one guy supervising.
Yeah, I mean, like AI, like even though the mopping machines may not be AI, and I guess it's probably more like machine learning. I think for the purpose of this conversation, we won't go ultra technical, but we'll just sort of say there's some form of decision rule to say at some point it's going to maybe, I don't know, scan the floor and go, it's dirty, or it's about time, or at this time of day there's more foot traffic, so we'll do another run. I think that's enough to really make the decision for this purposes of this conversation as to how far we are terming AI to be the killer. Like, say for example, you get midday peak traffic at Macca's, and you've got 500 people after a football game coming through, and you might have, or they're ordering on the screens. That's getting sent out the back. You've got a couple of pimple-faced teenagers making the burgers out the back.
Yes.
Now the AI is doing the fries, flipping the burgers, and maybe the human, like where there were 10 or 15 of these people out the back, now there's 3, and they're observing and fixing the errors. So now we're losing teenagers doing those entry-level jobs. Or maybe we're losing, maybe they're instead of teenagers, they're now technicians. They're much more highly paid, more experienced.
How do the teenagers get that exposure, having that job where they learn how to cop it from customers and how to have that those difficult interactions with people like we all did? It's an interesting question.
But maybe they can't. Maybe they're, dating's now done on apps. People don't meet in the world as much anymore. Like, you walk up to someone in the supermarket, go, oh, I like your shoes, or something like that, and you start a conversation. That art will die. The art of conversation, the art of striking up a conversation with a stranger that could eventually lead to a relationship. So
exactly. And then, like, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, how do we learn how to face rejection if we're not having those initial interactions and getting the knockbacks?
This is true. Now, the human race is at risk from itself more so than it is from the technology directly. So
there you go.
So if manual labor is going to go away, then what are some of the jobs that you think might be created as a result? Or maybe they're the same jobs, that they would just have more of them.
Interesting point. I think you hit the nail on the head with that Macca's example. So, I might not have my pimple-faced teenagers in there, but I might have some more highly skilled technicians that need to supervise. So that's a completely different type of job that would be created. What else are you thinking, Avon?
Well, before we got on camera, the creatives and personal services. So, maybe people crave now that human touch, that personal connection. So maybe this is something that happens in Japan, but you can actually, there are restaurants where you can go and pay for a conversation.
Wow. With an actual human, just to be clear, like a person? Wow.
Yep, a person, yeah. And so they basically come and just hang out and chinwag with you, make some silly comments and laugh, whatever. But this is an experience that people pay for. I think predominantly it's like it's called a snack. It's predominantly like Japanese men, but whilst that is a lighter version of what would otherwise be an adult service, you could probably imagine that adult services would increase as well, not necessarily out of choice, but maybe out of desperation, particularly in the short term where, this is another quite a negative impact on society potentially. So if, what else are people willing to do out of desperation? Maybe, I don't know, make drugs or, go into other things that maybe machines won't be programmed so well to do. Maybe you get some drug dealer with a big warehouse underground and it goes and buys like 600 robot arms and then goes and does the Breaking Bad thing, but just with the robots and AI.
There you go. Walter White.
If we're going to brainstorm every possible outcome, we need to also brainstorm the negative ones.
Exactly.
Life can't be all roses and Skittles and happiness. We need to, people are going to do the wrong thing, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely. Always. Human nature.
I think it's a little bit interesting to brainstorm the most evil thing that you could do, particularly if you're trying to stop that from happening. You need to consider what that could be in order to put a preventative measure in place.
Well,
what's the most evil thing that you could think would be a result?
I'm picturing this evil mastermind who is able, instead of having a team of like 50 people doing all these calculations to see what they can get away with, the AI does it in like 30 seconds. So what,
Interesting.
Mastermind plots of all descriptions, really.
You could train an AI to find loopholes in the law, or perhaps like read legislation across 10 different countries, and maybe there's a bit of tax rules or something like that. But, like if you're thinking about like a war, like everyone's trying to, there's action and counteraction, and then action and then counteraction. So I'm pretty sure like the governments are spending money on how to stop funds going in different places and things like that. Yeah. So, I mean, just as much as there is cybercrime, there's anti-theft and antivirus and all the things to defeat that. So yeah, I think new careers will definitely sprout on both sides of that.
Definitely.
And one of the things we sort of said, we have professional services and more creatives, or like, say for example, more creatives means more people creating content on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. But someone somewhere is going to get sick of scrolling. Then what?
Then what do we do? Exactly.
So if we think about the jobs that are at risk, obviously manual and repetitive, low complexity.
Yes.
And even where there is some complexity, I think an AI can't necessarily always create new decision rules. Like it is based off a formula.
Yes. And we need to give it that information so it knows if this, then that, if this, then that, right?
Correct. So there probably could only be, there's a saying that there's nothing new under the sun. There could always be something that someone has thought of or done or written or whatever. There's probably more that like tacit learning where you have to learn by doing. But even then, yeah, I mean, that's what they do. They get like Boston Dynamics, they get robots to do walking tracks over rocky terrain over and over, like thousands of hours, to then figure out which way to tilt the foot based on how it senses the rock, or where to move the leg and things like that. So, there's even algorithms to train it that.
There you go. So therefore, can you not train it to do anything over time, including to think like a human would think? Could you expose these AIs to trauma? But they don't have the feeling element, right? That's what's missing, the humanity.
Well, part of me thinks like let's go down a conspiracy route for a second. Yes. Have you ever seen I Am Legend? Have you heard of it?
Yes.
So it's written on a book by like Stephen King or whatever, and they're trying to escape the zombies, right? So, but in the movie, they're like wild, rough kind of animals, and they seem kind of senseless and brainless. But in the book, they're actually another kind of people, and they're actually afraid of him. And they're like, no, what are you doing? You're trying to destroy us. You're the problem. You need to go away. So is that what's going to happen? Maybe the machines become self-aware and need to get away. I mean, that's the Skynet story, right? So
exactly.
Terminator. But it's fun to ponder strange things. I don't necessarily believe them, but hey. So putting humans out to pasture. What's some way to either, I guess putting out to pasture is like, before you retire, the old horse that just sits in the small paddock before they die. So it's not really somewhere, humans want to grow, evolve, do something bigger, go somewhere and do something amazing and be known for something. So what are some ways to ride the wave, get in front of it, and not be overrun?
I think the biggest thing is, like, I'll use creative industries that you mentioned before. Biggest thing is to think of AI as a tool. So instead of freaking out, if you're a screenwriter, for example, instead of freaking out, AI is going to take my job and write the next, blockbuster movie, use it as a tool. Use it as a tool for inspiration or for formatting. So leverage it. If you're a graphic designer, use AI as a tool to help you come up with some logo ideas, but not actually use them as the final thing. So if we can leverage AI, use it as a tool, treat it as our partner in crime, so to speak, instead of our enemy or becoming a victim to it. I think that's where the magic is.
Yeah, and I think there's two schools of thought. There's the business owner's perspective, and then there's the employee's perspective.
Yes.
And we kind of Googled a bit of a list beforehand. So just to quickly run through those. So everyone's got transferable skills. I know that sometimes those transferable skills don't always make it on paper. I know for me, when I left the military, there's a lot of skills that are very useful. In fact, a hell of a lot more than the average person. But then when you go for a job, they're like, oh, leadership skills or something like, I don't have a course certificate. I don't have a piece of paper, or maybe the piece of paper doesn't match with the one that they're expecting. For case in point was first aid certificates. I know a hell of a lot more than the average person would get out of a CPR's first aid certificate, and have put it into practice. But because I don't have the bit of paper, technically I'm not certified. In fact, I would go to one of those courses and think it's a little bit average or not worth my time.
Right.
Weapons handling skills, right? I can shoot a lot of things very well. I've done years of handling, carrying, dealing with weapons, and yet I don't have a civilian gun license.
Wow, there you go.
There is no translation to say you've got 10,000 times more training than the average person that even just applies for a gun license, and you don't have it. So yeah, there's transferable skills. And what I'm getting at there is, it's just two examples that I could think of on the fly that don't necessarily mean that your transferable skills aren't always written down. You need to get a little bit creative and think about how those are going to really apply in the real world or in the new world, where if you start your own business, transferable skills don't matter on paper. They matter to be able to do them. You don't have to have the piece of paper, because in your own business, you're your own boss, so it doesn't matter. You have to prove
exactly.
New career paths in growing fields. So obviously the AI tech, the McDonald's professional AI watcher.
Yes.
As example.
Yes.
Starting a business. Maybe it's a professional services, personal services business, or teaching people on how to deal with AI. If you get ahead of the curve, you can teach them.
Exactly. There's so many. I'm sure you've seen this too, Avon. My social media feeds are filled with courses or coaches or all kinds of different humans and opportunities and products that are related to AI. It's just exploded. There's so much opportunity out there.
Well, my next point was going to be the online learning, and you're a bit of a specialist in that space.
Yeah. So we do leverage it as a tool, so to help us format different ways that courses could come together depending on the particular client. It does save us a lot of time. Ultimately, though, when it comes to instructional design, knowledge management, the human element, you need the humans, because I've seen, we work with the stuff that AI spits out on a daily basis, and we still need the humanity in there for the learning element.
Well, that gets back to sort of an earlier thing we were discussing, is that AI is going to move fast. The thing that's going to be the roadblock is the human. So sure, you're going to have more value in spending time trying to bring the human along for the journey than trying to, have the fastest AI.
Absolutely. Definitely.
You're not going to do it, unless you've you're a professor or a doctorate, or you got a team of people. You're not going to create the latest thing. You're at the same pace as everybody else who's dealing with the same changes in the marketplace. So the only thing you need to do is adapt faster and then help others to adapt.
Exactly, exactly. And the faster you can do that, the better off you are.
Which goes hand in hand with networking being a really powerful way to improve your future chances.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Avon, I know you've got maybe not a million, but all of the examples of how that happens firsthand.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say close to a million. Definitely a million conversations.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, freelancing. Maybe it's a little bit more important to save some funds for a rainy day, particularly if there's a transition period between when you figure out what you're doing to what you're going to do, and trying to sort that out. So, and then, you know, like just riding the wave. Like if you're doing the things that you can do with AI, you know, editing things like the video that comes out of this, or creating content that is like maybe the impetus for things like this, then you're operating at the same pace. So you're not going to get left behind. You're not going to advance past them. But, you know, it's, if you didn't do anything, you kind of would be left behind. So there's no real competitive advantage to this AI tool or that AI tool. As long as you're doing something, you're in the race.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those of you out there that haven't embraced it, now is the time. Please, please take action.
You've got your early adopters. You've got your early majority. I think that's where we're at now. Then you've got the maturity model. That's starting to come as some laggards are really, you know, looking to adopt it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have the late majority, which are the ones that are really going to suffer, I think. So they're the carbon copy book businesses that maybe were baby boomer held, or things like that, which is I guess more a very Australian term, but the older generation that are looking to exit business. So now is a great time to be a younger business looking to acquire and looking to automate. So go hard on your own and go hard on whatever you acquire, because that's what's going to give you the revenue.
Very good.
And then creating your pivot plan and looking at side hustles to test, rapid test. The speed of change is going to be phenomenal. Like with China, the startup is expected to last about 6 months, just because of the speed of the way things happen, the economy, the amount of people. They can test fast because it's all in and then it's all out. So whereas in a startup, you might have a couple of years runway. You've got 5 years to try and build a business. So AI accelerates everything. And if it's already accelerated, well, you need to learn as fast as possible, test as fast as possible, stop doing things that don't work, and focus on what does. And then try to ramp it up as fast as possible.
Yep. Double down on the stuff that's working. 100%.
That's it. Well, look, I know we wanted to keep it short today. So is there any closing points, thoughts, ideas that you wanted to add?
Look, team, if you haven't yet embraced it, please embrace it. Whether you're running your own business, whether you're, you know, you're a team member in another organization, look for ways that you can leverage AI to make you more powerful, and focus on upskilling yourself on different ways that you can use it to make you more effective, and find better ways of working so that you're actually working in tandem with it and not becoming its victim.
Excellent. So we've expanded on some of these ideas, which you'll find in the description after the end of this. So thank you for watching. That is the Business Octopus live stream. You can join the community at the link below, which will also be in the description. But otherwise, you stay classy, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Catch you next time. See ya.